Hello, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leadership Conversations with Kemi Ogunkoya. And today I have an amazing, super amazing guest. His name is Kola Oni. Trust me, guys, you're in for an amazing time today. So, Kola Oni is the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder at Afia Care Nigeria and Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer at our Jolad Hospital. He was Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at AXA Manta, a chartered accountant and consultant with experience in two of the big four firms, KPMG and PwC, where he advised large and mid-sized companies and PE firms on business expansions, market entry, audit, and growth projects. He has broad general management experience across project finance, business transformation, strategy, and brand development. It is such a great honor to have you here with us, Kola Oni. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I absolutely look forward to a great conversation today. I have been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while, and
Okay.
started on it. So while going through your profile, the last thing I said is that you have broad management experience across finance, business transformation, strategy. So the first question that I'm going to ask you today is around business transformation and some part of strategy too. So I would like to know, because we are in peculiar times where there seems to be a lot of disruption in the business environment. In your opinion, how can businesses be transformed and positioned for profitability and sustainability in today's world?
Okay. That's like an MBA question, actually. Yeah. But to be honest, I think most businesses need the same ingredient for sustainability and profitability when it comes to transformation. And I always look at things like this in a four-part way. The first thing for me has to do with leadership and governance. For a business to be transformed, that business is going to need leadership. And that is why a lot of times you need founders, right, to start a business. But even if it's not a business that is just being started, if it's an organization that has been existing for maybe 100 years, as we've seen in some parts of the world, it's always important to have leadership. But that leadership must be within the context of a good governance structure. This is where you have your board of directors or your board of trustees coming in. I think every organization can only start transformation when they have these elements, these first elements on ground and fully settled. When you get that leadership wrong, it doesn't even work. Now, we now need to look at the market. The market where we operate, the business needs to look at that market and be sure that there's a proper alignment. And what I mean by alignment is that there's an opportunity for value creation. There are a number of opportunities or industries where companies operate where the margin or the scope for innovation or value creation has totally changed. If you are running a company today that manufactures cameras, for instance, you would notice that there was a time when we had very, very large companies manufacturing cameras. But if the scope for innovation is shrinking in that space, there's going to be little that you can do. If we also look at the car vehicle manufacturing industry, recently I came across a picture that was trying to compare the valuation of General Motors to the valuation of Tesla. The truth of the matter is the world is going green, and every organization needs to look at how they intend to create value. And if the company doesn't align very well with the market in terms of the product and services that that company is supplying, then that kind of a company is going to have a challenge. So to achieve proper transformation, it's always going to be important for the company that we're talking about here, whichever company this is, to understand their place in the market and be very sure that they are aligned for value creation. Thirdly, for me, is winning with people. A company needs to win with its people. At the end of the day, we're going to serve our customers with our people. We're going to get our processes done with our people, and we are going to even implement our technology with our people. So every company that wants to be transformed needs to have a very, very clear people strategy. And finally is what I would say is reporting. Typically, when you are transforming for growth, for sustainability, for profitability, you must have regular check-ins as to where you're going and what you're doing. Now, what is important is, what are you checking? Are you just checking financial figures, or are you also checking your customer figures? Do you use the opportunity to check your reporting to track how well you're doing with your customers, or you simply just use it to track how well you're doing with your revenues? If you do not take your customers and every other critical stakeholder into consideration in your reporting, then your transformation is not going to be effective at the end of the day.
Fantastic.
So I
Thank
typically
you
will look at
very
it through
much.
those four approaches.
Wow, and I think those are really valid, areas that you have pointed out. Now, I'm gonna focus a little bit on the aspect of leadership, and now see it in from the lens point of how leaders within organization are able to make decisions. Now, just recently, we realized, or we got the news that Stripe, acquired Paystack for over $200 million, and it all did boil down to the decision of these young guys who founded this fintech company. Now, some have applauded the move as, a massive win for Nigerian startup ecosystem, while some have viewed it as a capital loss, and just seeing it as another capital flight where a lot of money has had to cross the Atlantic. Let's put it that way. Now, in your opinion, would you say that this is a win or this is a loss? And also, what does this mean for fintech companies in Africa? Is this something to be jubilating about, or is there something that has to get us back on the table? To just think some more.
Okay. If we look at this from a leadership context, as you said, I would say that the first thing we need to think of is the fact that as a leader, we need to have an ecosystem view. We need to look at our organization within the context of our industry, and even within the context of our nation, then within the context of the world, the entire world. If I adopt that kind of thinking, I would say that the Paystack deal is good. It's quite positive for Nigeria. Positive in the sense that I think this is really the first time that we're seeing such young Nigerians create such value, $200 million within just about 5 to 6 years. Of course, with that, companies like Flutterwave and Co. with young founders also achieve exits in the past. And we've had InterSwitch become a unicorn also within the past year. But the InterSwitch founders were not as young as Ezra and Shola of Paystack, for instance. So from an ecosystem point of view, this deal would have energized a lot of Nigerians who are in that age group. It would also have energized the tech sector. We need to realize that the the biggest comparative advantage that Nigeria has now is a potential comparative advantage, and it's our youth and the young people that we have in the country. Their innovation, their energy, their vibrancy is something that the nation can tap into. And if we can divert all that energy and vibrancy into a sector like tech, that is less prone to some of our infrastructural challenges, then we may have a chance to win. So it's a positive from that point of view. Another thing we need to realize is that these founders have created $200 million worth of value. Of course, some of it is going to go out of the country. What typically happens when you do deals like this is that the more you stay back to grow those companies before you make an exit, the more you can create more value internally. But when the ecosystem is energized, as I made earlier, it means that we're going to get a lot of pay stacks in the future. And as we get a lot more pay stack type companies, of course, some of them are not going to do early exits. Some of them are going to become unicorns. Some of them are going to become even multi-billion-dollar entities before they finally achieve exits. And it's really positive for the Nigerian ecosystem.
Fantastic. I love the point of view in which you have come from, looking at how it also affects other young entrepreneurs who feel like,
Definitely.
there's actually hope for us and we can get something started that will generate this kind of revenue over a few years, which is great. Now, you talk about innovation, and I know that innovation is key to entrepreneurship. I also know that you recently got fully into entrepreneurship, and I would like to know, what are some of those hard knocks that you have had so far? What would you consider also to be some of the most valuable lessons in the sort of entrepreneurship leadership?
Okay, no hard knocks yet. I just said.
It's been an easy ride.
Well, not easy. I have a joke like when I left my previous place of work, the previous Friday before my send forth, I was in this very cute office, and the very next Monday, I was on a borrowed desk in a friend's office, right? So, but I really didn't even see that as anything like a hard knock. I think I've been maybe like an entrepreneur intra now, like an internal entrepreneur all my working life. And a lot of my career decisions have actually, surprisingly, I've never really made any career decision based on money. I've always made all my career decisions based on where I see the market going. And I would typically leave an organization when I believe that there's a particular area where there is value creation, and I probably can get that done better somewhere else. And that is what has informed all of my career moves. So making the move to being full-time entrepreneur, as you call it, was actually also driven by that. There's an article I read recently that spoke about how people end up founding or co-founding companies. And he basically just said that a lot of the most successful companies actually originated out of ideas that they were working on in their former place of employment. And that's exactly what also happened there. I was involved in a project related to healthcare in my place of work. We couldn't go out with the project, but the value and the opportunity was very, very crystal clear to me and my partner, and we decided to take the leap. Maybe the closest thing I would say, closest thing to a hard knock is that when you're with a large company like I was working with before I co-founded Afia Care, you just realize that you have so many people around you who need whether it's an introduction or a time or a sponsorship or something like that. And the very next day, you are a very, very small company, and you start having some really quiet birthdays, which I love. So for me, it was a positive. But I've actually seen people say that that was also something that was difficult for them. Another thing I would say I have learned, or maybe I knew it before, but now it's good to see it very, is that we need to always be careful that equity is neither free nor cheap. So when you raise money for your business as a leader or as an entrepreneur, uh, that equity you've raised is a very, very huge responsibility. Uh, and it's good, it's something to rejoice about, but it's also always something for sober reflection because its value, it's a story, it's a legacy that you're trying to build, and it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Well, that's really profound, and thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I see that you passionate, just like you have said about your journey through entrepreneurship, and especially in the healthcare sector. I see that you're really passionate about the healthcare sector, and trying to bring this really in the environment in which we operate, where we live, and where we work. It seems like the healthcare sector, unfortunately, seems to be poorly developed, right? And there's this common saying that health is wealth, and if we really want healthier nations, we want more prosperous nations, then definitely the healthcare system has to work. Now, what would you say has to change in the way that our current healthcare system, operates, and what will some of this changes guarantee in the long run?
Oh, interesting. That's almost like the entire reason why Afia Care was founded. But the truth is that a lot of things need to change in the Nigerian healthcare sector. I think I always say that as a people, we need to move away from the mentality that healthcare is an exclusive preserve, or healthcare provision is an exclusive preserve of the federal government or of the state government, of the government generally. Healthcare can be provided by the private sector. And one of the first things we need to do is we need to find ways of channeling private long-term capital into healthcare in Nigeria. The second thing that I believe we need to do is that we need to build healthcare organizations. Healthcare organizations, I would describe any healthcare entity as a sustainable one if that healthcare organization has a very good chance of surviving beyond its founder. A lot of our healthcare organizations are not built in a way that they can survive if their founders are no longer around. And this is a big problem that we've had with sustainability. So what Nigeria has really suffered from is that we always have these enterprising, entrepreneurial healthcare professionals who put a lot of sweat, blood at times into making growing healthcare organizations. And as soon as they are no longer around, those organizations just die with them. If we can crack the code of making our healthcare organizations sustainable, and we also bring in private long-term capital, as I've said earlier, we're going to be a different place in terms of healthcare in the next decade. Finally, is that I would say that we need to find a way to also embrace health insurance and innovative healthcare technology. The world is now moving away from, there are quite a number of things that healthcare can be very expensive. Healthcare can be very expensive. But the truth of the matter is technology is helping to bridge the gap. And we need to open our minds to the use of technology, whether we're using it for access, like in the rural areas where there isn't a lot of access, or whether we're using it to bridge a lot of the logistics challenges that you get in a typical urban center. But across diagnosis, across even consultations and care provision generally, there is a lot that we can do with technology. So if we focus on technology, we focus on private long-term capital, we focus on building sustainable healthcare organizations, and we embrace insurance. In the hospital where I work, for instance, we find out that the average person who visits from an insurance company spends less in the hospital than somebody who is a cash paying customer. And the more we looked at it, the more we realized that the customers who pay cash a lot of times do not come to the hospital until their situation has become critical or very bad. So the outcome becomes worse and they end up paying more. They have a greater risk of being admitted, and they actually have a greater risk of mortality. And this is all because they were waiting to raise the cash, and they actually end up spending more money than if they had bought health insurance. So I know the saying is that health is wealth.
Some of these,
and the way I see it is that
opportunities in terms of leveraging technology and also health insurance. Now, I know that at Afia Care, there's this vision to make healthcare more accessible and affordable, which are some of the things that you said earlier. How exactly are you doing this at Afia Care, and what would this mean to the average Nigerian?
Okay, so Afia Care has looked at the healthcare sector in Nigeria, and we think that there are deficiencies across the entire value chain, which is the demand and supply. So in between that is probably the technology infrastructure. And what Afia Care is doing is to make sure that we bring in a proposition or an organization that can help us solve the problems across that entire value chain. So the demand, of course, as you know, it is the people who need healthcare, and that demand is scattered in Nigeria. Is ideally, demand is meant to be aggregated through either a network of private health insurance companies, or maybe a big all-encompassing health insurance system, national health insurance system, like we see in other countries in different parts of the world. Right? So we are investing in that demand side to make sure that people can actually get access to health insurance. And we want to do it in a way that will be pretty broad-based, and it would cover a wide range of Nigerians. Then very important is the supply side, which is the healthcare infrastructure side. And the way we look at it is that, as I mentioned, that sector needs a lot of patient and private capital. That sector needs a lot of scale. Hospitals are much more efficient when they are bigger. So we are investing in hospitals, and we are growing them, expanding them, so that they can be more efficient. And as they become more efficient, the cost of care is going to drop. And when the cost of care drops, it would make it easier for health insurance companies to also charge less. And as they charge less, they bring more people into the healthcare net. And it becomes a virtuous cycle, right? That eventually just has this ripple effect on the entire country.
Fantastic, and I think that's really really important. Looking at the infrastructure. Now, I want us to also look at another aspect of it, which is the human resource aspect.
Okay.
In the healthcare industry. So we know that Nigeria has one of the largest stocks of human resource for health, in Africa. But like the other 57 HR8 crisis company has densities of nurses, midwives, and doctors that are still too low to effectively deliver essential healthcare services. Now, inasmuch as Nigeria is blessed with these, we have to deal with the fact, however, that there's a lot of flight in terms of our health workers, where a lot of our health workers seem to be seeking opportunities abroad, for example, being lured into developed countries, for that better sense of living. Now, what would you say are some of the implications of this? And I think I made a joke a few weeks back when I said if all the doctors leave, they probably would be at the mercies of herbalists, that we call the doctors. Yeah, but then what would be the implication of this flight, and how really should leaders in that sector be responding to this issue? What should they be doing differently? I know that I also listened to an interview of a minister who said, we have many doctors, so as many as we want to leave, please let them go. But what should the response be in terms of leadership in that space? And, what's the implication if things just continue this way?
Okay, I think first of all, Nigeria doesn't have enough doctors. It takes about 10 times longer to get a doctor in Nigeria than the global average. We have about 4 doctors per 10,000, and the global average is actually about 15 doctors. There are some countries in the world with about 28 doctors, like the UK. The UK has 28 doctors per 10,000 people. And it is actually the same UK that is taking doctors away from us. So we definitely need more doctors. Apart from doctors, we need more nurses. Generally, we need a lot of healthcare practitioners. If you go into healthcare and you look closely at certain important sectors in the country, you will find out that we are really, really lagging behind, and there's a lot more that we need to do. The way we look at it is that one critical thing that is missing in the healthcare sector, especially when it comes to our healthcare workers, is the lack of a career that they can look forward to. The healthcare sector, let's take doctors for instance, is positioned in such a way that you probably need to be within a teaching hospital system before you can get the right kind of career progression that you need. So what then happens is that if a doctor doesn't manage to get into that system and work towards becoming a consultant, he or she essentially may end up in just a private institution. And I have spoken to you about some of the private institutions where you basically just know that this private institution is not going to outlast the founder. So as a doctor, you are in this sort of situation and you're looking at yourself and you're wondering what the future is going to hold for you. This lack of a future to look forward to is a major problem in the healthcare sector. And as we design our people organization in the healthcare space, the leaders in that sector need to have this at the back of their mind and do things to make sure that this is corrected.
Wow. So thank you very much for that. So there's really a lot of responsibility, that lies on the shoulders of leaders in that space, to be able to create an environment that actually helps people see hope, in the future in that space. Thank you very much for that. Now, it's been a great journey through life, through the corporates, and just doing all the amazing things that you do. What would you say is your most important leadership journey or your leadership lesson through this journey? What would you consider to be the most important leadership lesson through this phenomenal journey of yours?
I think value is important. You always need to ask yourself if you measure yourself first. Ask yourself that, are you getting better? Are you becoming a much better person emotionally, even physically? Physically, in the sense that there might be certain things that could do some damage to your body before, but you are now better at handling those things. Spiritually, so you need to ask yourself that, are you getting better? Then you extend this to every organization or every community or every opportunity where you find yourself, to say that, what exactly am I doing to make things better? It could even be your estate association. So I think the most important lesson for me is that this is a question that you need to ask yourself almost every day.
Wow. So the question of value, right? The question of value,
Yes.
and being in that place where you can constantly keep introspecting. And I think that's an area where a lot of leaders actually just get lost. We talk about leadership from the dance floor and then leadership from the balcony. And a lot of leaders just get really engaged, just being on the dance floor, and then they forget just how important it is to be able to deal from the balcony where you have that
Mm.
panoramic view, where you're able to reflect and just see how things are going on, and just be in that place where you have that view of life and then of business. I think that's very, very important. And thank you very much
Yeah.
in that with us. Now, as we always do on the show, we usually give our esteemed speakers a riddle, and then that riddle, they're supposed to come up with the answers to that riddle. So we're going to give it a shot with you, and let's see how you do on this. All right, so the question for you is this, and it's very simple, trust me. The question
Okay.
is, which of your grandpa's son is not your uncle? Which of your grandpa's son is not your uncle?
My dad.
Okay, I told you it was very simple. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely
Good.
correct.
Okay. Nice. I
Absolutely
was
correct.
expecting something difficult.
Yeah, I told you it was simple. It was very
You must
simple.
think, you must think so poorly of me.
Absolutely not. But then it just,
Okay.
it's just for fun. And we don't want you like, and like, okay,
Ah, no, sure, it's nice, it's good. You can see that I was watching, waiting for that
you just
difficult wait.
I told you it was simple. Okay, so we're gradually
All
getting
right,
to the end of this great session. It's been great learning. It's been great
all right.
insight. Nudges really to help us become more, to help us do more, especially in that area of business and also in the healthcare space. Now, before we
Sure.
let you go, we would like you to leave us with a parting word, something to charge us through on our own leadership journey, especially for our viewers who are young, vibrant, and have to deal with all the complexities of today's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world.
Uh, I think just okay. I'm just going to. It's something I like about Steve Jobs. I think just stay foolish. Uh, I like it so much. I think we need to always keep our minds open, that mind blowing ideas can always come, innovation can always come, amazing ways of doing things can always come. So I'm always very prepared to be excited. And some of my colleagues will tell me at times that, why do you like using the word fantastic, great, excellence? I think I just believe that there is a lot of amazing things that can still happen. And it's always important for us to keep our minds open to see those things being done all around us, whether it's by our colleagues or even by just people out there in the world who are doing things. And so we just plug ourselves into that global consciousness of innovation. So please, let's stay foolish.
Stay foolish. That's the word of today. So, guys, you heard
Yes.
it right from the mouth of our speaker, Kola Oni, and that's his charge for you to stay foolish, keep learning, keep challenging the status quo, and never remain still. Thank you very
Thank
much. It's
you.
been a great honor having you. It's been such a great session. Really
Thank you so
interesting,
much.
and we look forward to having you sometime soon again.
Thank you so much, Kemi. And
Thank
have a good
you.
day.
And you
Bye.
too.